Groovy.
Hey everybody, Jim here with another top 10 list, and pretty recently I did my top 10 SNES and Super Famicom shooters because I wanted to do some shooter lists, but I wanted to start by choosing some consoles that maybe don't spring to people's minds right away when they think about shoot 'em ups. So I thought the SNES was a good pick for that, but today I have chosen another console that has just a myriad of amazing shooters on it, but maybe it's not the first one that comes to people's minds when they think of great systems for shoot 'em ups, and that's the Xbox 360. So today we are going to be taking a look at my personal top 10 Xbox 360 shoot 'em ups. Okay, so before we get started, the usual rules apply if you've ever seen one of my top 10 list videos. Number one is that I only choose one game per series because there are some shooter series on the 360 that have a number of releases for them, and I like to keep my lists fairly diverse, so it's only one game from each series, so there's not going to be a whole bunch of Dodonpachi games covering all of this list. And number two, obviously, this is just one person's opinion. It's totally subjective. Everyone has their favorites, and I'd actually like to know what yours are, so please do go ahead and put that down in the comments. But with that being said, let's get started. Number 10. Okay, so starting off at number 10, we have Ketosis. And I was told by somebody that Ketosis is actually a Greek word, but I don't remember what it means. You'll have to forgive me. If you do know what the hell it means, you can go ahead and put that in the comments and refresh my memory, please. But Ketosis, I like this game a lot, primarily because the gameplay, it's really fun. It's a very well-made shooter, but it's also very simple. In the original mode in this game, there are no power-ups to collect at all. It's just straightforward, shoot everything that appears on screen. You have two different shot types. You have your narrow, powerful shot and your spread shot, and you have a shield that can block incoming bullets, but it's got a limited amount of energy, so you have to use it kind of sparingly, and you don't have any super bombs, just flash items that appear on screen that when you touch them, they're activated automatically, and they work kind of like a super bomb. There is a second mode included in this game where you can collect power-ups to strengthen your attack, but it takes away energy from your shield, so you have to choose your appropriate balance between offense and defense. But overall, this is just a very well-made game. For the most part, it's an overhead shooter, but it does sometimes go into isometric view, which I guess historically, I'm not a huge fan of isometric shooters, but it's actually done really well in this game. So great, simple, well-done gameplay. Excellent graphics. Again, I typically don't like a lot of 3D rendering in my shooters. I like my shooters to be strictly 2D graphics, but this game is mostly rendered in 3D, and it's a very good looking game. The soundtrack is really good too, and when you buy this copy on the Xbox 360, it comes with the soundtrack for this game, and also it comes with the soundtracks for the WonderSwan games made by Cute Corporation, which are Judgment Silver Sword and Cardinal Sins. Both of those games are also included on this disc, so you get 3 shooters in one. How can you go wrong? But Ketosis, really great game, very fun. Again, simple gameplay, but very well made, and I like it a lot, and it's my number 10 favorite Xbox 360 shooter. Number 9. For number 9, I have Muchi Pork and Pink Sweets, and primarily Muchi Pork. which is a game that every time I play it, it puts a big old smile on my face because it's a cave shooter, and it plays a lot like pretty much any other cave shooter, but on top of that, it's also a cute 'em up, I guess you could say, so it's extremely colorful, vibrant looking game with some very silly, wacky characters and a very silly plot and music that's extremely upbeat and cheerful and matches the obnoxiously colorful visuals in this game. So I do like the overall presentation is one of the things that makes this game really attractive to me. And on top of that, again, it's a cave shooter, so it plays really well. It's a fun, well-made, especially challenging game. One thing I do like about both of the games on this disc is that they feature a difficulty gauge. So it starts out empty, and the better you play, the more it fills up and the more difficult the game becomes. But when you start to die repeatedly, or if you start to die repeatedly, the difficulty gauge will gradually go back down to ease things up a little bit. So it's always getting to like a perfect difficulty level for each player, and I like that a lot. Also, it's a two-player game as well, so if you get somebody to sit down and play it with you, it's absolutely amazing fun. And again, it's 2 games on 1 disc, so you also get Pink Sweets, which again is another outstanding cave shooter, but Muchi Muchi Pork is definitely my preference. It looks good, it sounds good, it plays very good, and it's just got kind of a certain special wacky charm to it that makes it very endearing to me. And yes, Muchi Muchi Pork, my number 9 favorite Xbox 360 shooter. Number 8. For number 8, I chose Shikigami No Shiro Episode 3, I believe also known as Castle Shikigami 3. I've never actually played the English version of this. This is by Alpha System and Arc System Works, and there is just a lot to like in this game. For starters, there are a ton of selectable characters. I believe there are 10 playable characters in total. And when I play a shoot 'em up, I like to have a lot of selectable characters and ships. It's one of the reasons I like Psycho shooters so much on the Sega Saturn and Dreamcast, is because you have a bunch of different ships to choose from, and like those games, here each character is unique from the others. They have different fire modes and different super bombs and specials they can do, and for each character you choose, you actually have 2 different modes of play for each character. So even then, it's like you have 20 different play styles to choose from in this game. So that's just outstanding. I like a lot of variety in my shooters. On top of that, very fun, very well made, very challenging shooter, I will say that much. There are definitely some pull your hair out moments in this game, especially if you're playing on higher difficulties. But regardless of that, it's always very fun. Very well made game. Also, graphics are outstanding. I do like all the character designs in this game. I think it's a good looking game in general, and the soundtrack is another really good one. It complements the look, it complements the characters, it complements the plot and the overall feel of the game. So Shikigami no Shiro Episode 3, excellent game. If you can, pick up the Japanese, pick up the North American version. It may or may not have been released in PAL regions, I'm not 100% sure, but whatever way you can, this game is definitely worth playing. Shikigami no Shiro 3, my number 8 favorite Xbox 360 shooter. Number 7. For number 7, I decided to go with Oda Medius Excellent, which I think is a game that doesn't need a whole lot of description. I do believe this game was released everywhere in the world, so Japan, North America, and Europe. It is the follow-up to the original Oda Medius Gorgeous, which is also available on the 360, and is also a really great game that I can recommend playing, but I do believe this is the better of the two. And essentially, it's just Gradius, but you have cute little anime girls flying through the air on speeder bike looking things. It has essentially identical gameplay to the Gradius series, so you collect your power-up orbs and you select what power-ups you want to use and when. You have a whole bunch of different characters to choose from that have different varieties of power-ups, and they all play differently. Again, I like some variety in my shooters. Extremely colorful, just vibrant game. Very similar, actually, to the Parodius game, since it is a Gradius game, but it has wacky characters and strange settings, and just overall it has a very cutesy anime look to it. I like it a lot. So the graphics in this game, very good. I like the visual presentation and the character designs. The soundtrack is also excellent. Again, it's Konami. It's a Konami shooter. There's never been a Konami shooter made that didn't have just an outstanding soundtrack. So this game really is the total package, especially if you're a longtime Gradius fan like I am. This is a real joy to play. Oda Medius Excellent, my 7th favorite Xbox 360 shooter. Number 6. For number 6, I decided to go with another cave shooter, and that is Akai Katana. And this is a game that before I played it, I watched some other people play it who were especially good at it, and I was really impressed by just how bullet helly this game is. They were playing on some higher difficulty levels, and I don't think I'd ever seen so many bullets on one screen. So I thought it looked pretty cool. Definitely wanted to give it a try. When I started playing it, came to realize I wasn't near as good as the people I was watching, and was dying pretty quickly and quite a lot. So I had to tone the difficulty back just a little bit to get myself into it. And even at the lower difficulties, this is still a very difficult, challenging bullet hell shooter, but it's extremely fun. You have a couple of different ships to choose from that each have their own fire modes. They play unique from one another. You can also build up a power meter to transform into an alternate form that makes you much stronger and actually lets you take a few hits before you revert back to your regular form. And you have some super bombs as well. But just in general, yes, bullet hell to the max, which some people I know definitely don't care for. But I do. This is one of the games that originally got me into the bullet hell style of shooters. Your hitbox is extremely small, but there are so many bullets on screen that you're going to have a hell of a time getting through this game on, one continue, even at a lower difficulty setting. But it's fun. I like it a lot. I love the graphics. I love the 2D sprites used for everything. I think it's a very good looking game. The soundtrack is really good. This is another one that when you buy this version on the Xbox 360, it does come with the soundtrack, which you'll probably want to rip immediately because there's a really great sort of heavy metal style soundtrack in this game, which I like a lot. Anyway, Akai Katana, another one that was released in the United States and in Japan, and I believe in Europe as well. So if you get a chance to play it, I would highly recommend you do. If you like bullet hell shooters, if you've never tried them before, this is a good game to get you into the genre, I think. Just get ready to die a lot. Anyway, Akai Katana, great game, my 6th favorite Xbox 360 shooter. Number 5. For number 5, I picked another cave shooter. I know so much cave, but it's kind of unavoidable when you're talking about Xbox 360 shooters, and this one is Mushi Hemaysama Futari, which is the follow-up to the original Mushi Hemaysama, which is a great game in its own right, but I think this is just a much better game. You have an additional character to choose from, aside from the original Mushi Hemaysama. There are more gameplay modes to choose from, everything from novice all the way up to absolute maniac levels of play. Just a great game overall, fast-paced, bullet hell shooter. I've described it before as kind of like the more like nature version of a Dodonpachi game, because it definitely does feel a lot like Dodonpachi. Each character has 2 fire modes. One is a weaker spread shot that lets you move faster, and the other one is a more concentrated shot that slows your movement a bit, and that's better for boss battles and things like that. And both characters have a stock of super bombs, and in some or all modes, or maybe it's an option that you can apply to all modes, when you do take a hit, your super bomb can be activated automatically to keep you from losing a life. But just in general, Mushi Hemaysama and Mushi Hemaysama Futari, which I will also mention that this game is region-free, so if you have an Xbox 360, regardless of where you are, you can play this game. It's well worth playing. It's very challenging, but it is very fun, a very well-made shooter. Again, very akin to Dodonpachi, so if you already know you like Dodonpachi, you're going to like Mushi Hemaysama. Absolutely beautiful graphics. It's just an extremely colorful game. The soundtrack is fantastic as well. It really does fit the kind of like nature, whimsical style and setting that the game is going for. So just all around, amazing gameplay, beautiful graphics, great soundtrack. And if you buy the deluxe version, another game that comes with its awesome soundtrack, actually 2 versions of its soundtrack, the original and arranged version. So it's well worth picking up. Mushi Hemaysama Futari, great game, and my 5th favorite Xbox 360 shooter. Number 4. For number 4, I will just preempt this by saying that I do really love Raiden 4, but my favorite Raiden game on the 360 is definitely Raiden Fighters Aces. This is a collection of all 3 of the Raiden Fighters games, and each one is outstanding, really kind of the best of mid-90s Maniac-style shoot-em-ups. They offer a ton of different ships to choose from. The first game, I believe, has 7 ships, and the other 2 games have 14 different ships in total. And it's not just cosmetic differences. Each ship has different stats, different levels of speed and handling. Each ship has access to 2 different primary weapons and a couple of different types of missiles and also options. So there's just a lot of variety in the ships you can play as in this game and how you can play with them. It's very challenging and fun. Pretty much perfect controls and collision detection, like I said. Pretty much the best of mid-90s Maniac-style shooters. I'd say as far as just like a pure shoot-em-up goes on the 360, this might actually be the best, just straightforward shooter for the 360. I like it a lot, so 3 different games to play. Lots of variety in each game. Really great graphics. Outstanding soundtracks. Like, you want to talk about like really heart-pounding, like 90s techno, like get in your cockpit and destroy everything in sight soundtracks. That's these games all over. Great soundtracks. So just all around, some of the best gameplay you'll play for any shooter on the 360. Really great graphics, really great sound design, and a ton of variety. Again, 3 different games to play. This game was released in Japan, And in North America, I believe the North American version is actually significantly cheaper than the Japanese version, so this is one I would definitely recommend picking up if you like the Raiden series in general, and overall if you like 90s Maniac style shooters, high intensity, high action, very fun, very challenging shooters. Raiden Fighters Aces is going to be one you're going to want to check out, and it's my 4th favorite Xbox 360 shooter. Number 3. For number 3, I decided to go with Bullet Soul Infinite Burst. And I do love both of the Bullet Soul games, and this game does include the original Bullet Soul mode on it. But the thing that made this game like super addictive for me is the burst mode that's included in the game, where destroyed enemies drop coins that bounce all over the screen. And it's kind of like a scramble to destroy enemies as quickly as possible, but also try to collect all the coins before they bounce off of the screen, so you can get these really just like outrageous scores. And it's almost like, I almost want to say like playing a slot machine or something like that. There's just like a ton of colors and sounds and just stuff going on, and it demands your attention. Like I'm constantly like sucked in, trying to grab all the coins, trying to destroy all the enemies, trying to avoid all the bullets. And it's just extremely fun. This is probably the most addictive shooter, I would say, for the 360, for me at least, when I start playing it, especially when I start playing the burst mode. It's really hard to stop. Even after I've played through the mode, I'll probably want to play through again just to try to get an even more ridiculous score, or to get through it dying fewer times. I will say, with that being said, the Bullet Soul games are probably the easiest of any shooter that is on the 360, but regardless of that, I still find them to be extremely fun. And on top of how fun and addictive I think Bullet Soul Infinite Burst is, the graphics are amazing, extremely colorful game. I love the designs of all the different stages and all of the weird kind of robotic alien look to all of the enemies, and the character designs are really cool too. And I even enjoy the character voiceovers in this game, and the sound design, the soundtrack in particular, is great. If you pick up Infinite Burst, if you play the original mode, you get the original soundtrack, and if you play Burst mode, you get an arranged heavy metal version of the soundtrack, which is amazing. And that arranged soundtrack is also included with the game, which just put a big old smile on my face, because again, it's an amazing soundtrack. One of my favorite soundtracks from any shooter, as a matter of fact. So great addictive gameplay, great graphics, just all around love the visual design, and the soundtrack is really top notch. Love the soundtrack a lot. So there's nothing bad I can say about Bullet Soul Infinite Burst, other than it's a little bit easy, but I'm willing to forgive it for being so damn fun. Bullet Soul Infinite Burst, great game, a region-free game I might add, and it is my third favorite shooter for the Xbox 360. Number 2. For number 2, I decided to go with the original Death Smiles, which is a game that has kind of a special place in my heart. This was the first of the, I guess, more modern cave shooters that I played. I sat down to play it at an arcade in Akihabara because I was initially drawn in by the cool visual style. I saw characters that had kind of like a very Victorian era, like Lolita, like the Lolita style to them, but they're flying through the air and like killing monsters and in cemeteries and all kinds of cool stuff like that. So just the very attractive visual style drew me in at first, and then I was just hooked, having fun with this amazing, I guess, bullet hell shooter. Sometimes it's not quite so bad like in the first few stages, because you could choose from if you want to start at level 1, or do you want to play to like level 2 or 3, all the way up to like level 99. So you could take it easy on yourself, which I did at first, but it definitely ramps up big time at the higher difficulty levels. But I was having fun with this game. Side-scrolling shooter where you can shoot to either the left or right. You have a handful of characters to choose from that all have different fire modes and super bombs. And again, very challenging, very fun gameplay. Beautiful graphics. I love the aesthetics of this game. Let's put it that way. Aesthetics really sold me on this game initially. I played it simply for how it looked, and then discovered that I absolutely loved the gameplay. The soundtrack is also amazing. It goes very well with the gothic art style. And also I'll say about the graphics, because I do love Death Smiles 2 as well. But Death Smiles 2, they decided to go with 3D rendered backgrounds, which I didn't care for so much. This game, beautiful 100% 2D graphics, which I like a lot. So gameplay, incredibly fun, challenging, and addictive. Graphics and overall visual design is outstanding, I would say, of pretty much any shooter on the 360. This one is probably the most visually interesting, and then a soundtrack that just, you know, is amazing, complements every other aspect of the game as a good soundtrack should. And another game that was released not only in Japan, but in the US and perhaps Europe as well. You might be catching on to the fact that I know almost nothing about the PAL region, so any European viewers, if you want to correct me on whether or not any of these games were released in Europe, I would appreciate that, actually, because I don't know. But Death Smiles, and going with it, Death Smiles 2, just amazing games. Again, wonderful gameplay, beautiful graphics, outstanding soundtrack. Not a bad thing to say about this game, and it's my second all-time favorite Xbox 360 shooter. Number 1. And for my number 1 all-time favorite 360 shooter, I decided to go with Dodonpachi Die Oh Joe, which shouldn't be a big surprise to anyone who's ever heard me talk about this game. I've said on a number of occasions that this is my favorite 360 shooter. It's one of my favorite shooters ever. In general, I feel like it just takes all the things that are good about the Dodonpachi series, and it perfects all of it. This is kind of like the perfect cave shooter. You have a handful of characters to choose from in the traditional Dodonpachi style that all have different fire modes and different super bombs, and you have your spread shot and your powerful laser that slows you down a bit. This game also has an Xbox 360 mode in it where you can play as Saya, who was not a playable character in the arcade version of this game. Extremely challenging, fun, just spot-on controls and hit detection. Really kind of a blend of Maniac and Bullet Hell style. So just as far as gameplay goes, I feel like this is the perfected version of a cave shooter. This is as good of a game as they've ever made, and the graphics are outstanding. Very colorful, bright, vibrant game. It's kind of like staring at a neon sign half the time, with just not just the backgrounds but the bullets as well. Just extreme color in this game, and the soundtrack is awesome. The soundtrack is kind of a mix of high energy techno and heavy metal in spots. It really goes well with the hectic, frantic gameplay style found in this game. So again, just all around, pretty much the perfect cave shooter, the epitome of Dodonpachi, if you will. amazing gameplay, beautiful graphics, outstanding soundtrack. Once I start playing this one, I can pretty much just sit and play it for hours and hours on end. It is my favorite Xbox 360 shooter, and one of my favorite shooters of all time. It is Dodonpachi Die Oh Joe, my #1 Xbox 360 shooter.
驚異的な高エネルギー反応確認。気をつけてください。気をつけてくださいだって良きの砲台？くねくね動いててポイント定められない。避けろって方が無理な話だけど、マスター避けて。6台大物1機を得ずってね。全部を相手に書いてまでさえはみ出さないよ。
So there you go. Those are my 10 favorite Xbox 360 shoot-'em-ups. I hope you enjoyed it, and I do anticipate reading down in the comments what some of your favorites are. What did you like on my list? What didn't you like? And what would you change? Because I know shooter fans definitely have their favorites and are very loyal to them. And to be completely honest, any game that was featured on this list could be anybody's, #1, because they're all very good. I almost wanted to make a top 15 just because there are so many great shooters for the 360. If you're a shooter fan and you never thought about collecting for the 360, you might want to. It's a shooter fan's dream in many ways. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for subscribing, liking, commenting, all those cool things. And until next time, take care, everybody. Goodbye.